Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling something uh, pretty destructive. Pests that are literally eating people out of house and home. Drywood termites.
Yeah, they're a serious issue. Masters of hiding, causing just incredible damage, often before you even know they're there.
And it feels like the problem is growing, right? With, climate shifts and just wood being transported everywhere.
Absolutely. Their range is expanding. They're becoming a bigger and bigger headache in more places. A hidden threat, really.
Unlike some pests, you don't always see them until, well, the damage is pretty bad.
Exactly. It can be quite extensive by then.
And the traditional ways of dealing with them, fumigation. Ugh, it's toxic.
Oh, definitely. The stress of bagging up all your food, your belongings, having to leave your home.
Right. And it doesn't even stop them from coming back later. It feels, disruptive and temporary.
Precisely. It doesn't offer lasting protection. So, yeah, there's a strong need for better solutions, more targeted, less invasive ones.
Which is exactly what we're unpacking today. We've got sources describing this really interesting new strategy. It feels smarter, almost sneaky, using the termites' own biology against them.
Quite an elegant approach, actually. It focuses on, disrupting their basic life processes and using their social structure.
It really is. So let's dive into how this works, this multi-pronged attack, and why it's got researchers excited.
Sound good.
Okay, so let's start with the pest itself. Drywood termites, we know they're bad news, but where do they typically hang out? And why is this becoming a bigger problem now?
Well, historically, you find them mostly in warmer coastal areas, California, northern Mexico, places like that.
Right.
But, like you said, climate warming is letting them creep further north,
Yeah.
and they're great hitchhikers. They travel inside lumber, furniture, you name it.
So they can just set up shop anywhere the conditions become okay for them.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
If they land somewhere suitable, they can start a new colony.
And the damage is so bad because they live inside the wood, right?
That's the crucial thing. Unlike, say, subterranean termites that come from the ground, Drywood termites excavate galleries right within the structural timber. They weaken it from the inside out.
So you might not see much on the surface for a long time.
Sometimes you'll see these little piles of fecal pellets. They call it frass, pushed out of tiny holes. But often the colony is quite large before you notice even that.
Compared to that, fumigation. That's the big tent over the house, pumping in gas.
Right, that whole procedure. And look, it can work for the termites that are there right then.
But it's highly toxic stuff.
Extremely toxic. And you have to vacate, protect everything. And crucially, once that gas clears out, there's zero residual protection.
So the house is immediately vulnerable again.
Instantly. Yeah.
Okay, so the hunt is definitely on for better ways. And that brings us to researchers like Nicholas Polos and Professor Dongguan Cho at UC Riverside. They're looking at this differently.
Yeah, they've focused on the termite's fundamental biology. What's really clever is targeting something essential for insects that, well, we just don't have.
Like what?
Their exoskeleton. Insects have their skeleton on the outside, right? It's their protection, what their muscles attach to.
Kind of like armor. Okay. And to grow, they have to shed that armor.
Exactly. That process is called molting. They have to ditch the old exoskeleton and grow a new, bigger one underneath.
And they have to do this multiple times.
Oh, yeah. It's totally unavoidable if they want to grow maybe 7 times or even more during their development. They simply must molt.
And this new chemical, bistrifluron, that's the weapon targeting this molting process.
Spot on. Bistrifluron is a chitin synthesis inhibitor. Chitin is the main stuff the exoskeleton is made of. So this chemical basically stops the termite from making the new chitin it needs for that next exoskeleton.
Oh, okay. So they eat the wood treated with this stuff, and then when it's time to halt, uh-oh.
Uh-oh is right. They start the process, they try to shed the old shell, but they haven't been able to form the new one properly underneath.
So they're left exposed.
Completely exposed and vulnerable. Professor Cho put it really clearly. He said, once the termites reach a certain stage, they have to molt. They cannot avoid that. They'll try to shed their old exoskeleton, but won't have a new one ready to protect them.
Wow. And the sources mentioned seeing this failed, incomplete molting.
Yeah, that's the telltale sign. Without that new exoskeleton, they die. It's a dead end for them.
That's incredibly specific. And a really key point from the research is safety, right? For us, for pets.
Absolutely. That's a massive advantage. Because chitin, and the way it's made, is specific to insects and other arthropods. Bistrifluron just doesn't affect Mammals, birds, us.
So it's much more targeted.
Much more. Nicholas Peels called it more environmentally friendly than ones traditionally used, for exactly that reason. It hits the target, leaves everything else alone.
Okay, so you've got this targeted chemical. It hits an essential process. It's safe for others. Sounds great. But termite colonies are hidden, right? Spread out inside the walls. How do you get the chemical to enough of them? That seems tricky.
It does, and that's where the second clever part comes in. They leverage the termites' social life.
Ah, right. They're social insects.
Highly social. They feed each other, groom each other. They're constantly interacting within that hidden colony.
So if one termite eats the bistrifluron, it doesn't just affect that one termite.
Nope.
Yeah.
That termite becomes like a little delivery agent, a donor. Through all that normal social stuff, sharing food, grooming, they pass the chemical along to others in the colony.
It's called horizontal transfer, right?
Exactly. Horizontal transfer.
So you're not just relying on treating the exact spot they eat, you're letting the termites themselves spread the poison around for you.
That's the idea. And the research showed that even if you just treat a limited area where they're likely feeding, this social transfer gets the chemical out to a much bigger chunk of the colony hidden away in the wood.
And does it wipe them out eventually?
The sources say it leads to full colony collapse, usually in about 2 months or so.
Okay, so it's not an instant zap like fumigation, but the advantage is the spread. You don't need to find every last termite gallery.
That's the potential power here.
Hmm.
Professor Cho actually suggested this kind of spot treatment could kill a larger colony and spread more easily than current termite control methods. His point was, you don't have to apply too much to get a very good result.
Less chemical needed because the termites do the delivery work. Makes sense.
Right.
Okay, so we have the targeted chemical messing with molting, and we have social behavior spreading it. That's already sounding way better. But how do you get them interested in the treated wood in the first place? They might be munching on some other part of the house.
Good question. And that leads to the third piece of the puzzle, which adds another layer of cleverness. They built on earlier work from the Cho lab and added a lure, a non-toxic lure, using something called pine.
Pine! That sounds familiar. Isn't that from pine trees?
Exactly. It's a chemical that gives pine forest that characteristic smell. Very pleasant to us.
And termites like it.
Apparently they love it. For Drywood termites, it acts as a really strong attractant. It basically screams good food here to them.
Okay, hang on. So you use this natural eat here smell, apply it to the wood that's been treated with the molting disrupting chemical, which then gets spread through the colony by the termites themselves.
You got it. That's the whole system working together. It's elegant, isn't it?
It really is. You lure them in, dose them, and let them take it back to their buddies.
It creates this super effective trap. The pine draws them to the treated spot. They eat the bistrifluron, and then they become these little carriers taking it back home.
And the results from the study really showed this combo worked, right?
Oh, dramatically. Professor Cho said, we saw significant differences. Just the insecticide alone without the pine lure. Got about 70% mortality.
Okay, not bad.
But he said when we added the pine in, it was over 95%.
Wow, over 95% kill rate just by adding that natural attractant.
Yeah. It shows just how powerful that synergy is. The chemical, the social spread, and the lure working together. That's what gets you that really high efficacy.
That's impressive. Okay, so that sounds really promising. But getting it out of the lab and into, actual houses, what are the hurdles there? The sources mentioned how they applied it in the study.
Right. In the research paper, which was in the Journal of Economic Entomology, they dissolved the bistrifluron in acetone to put it on the wood samples.
Acetone, like nail polish remover. Okay, yeah, that works in a controlled lab setting, but you probably don't want pest control folks spraying acetone all over someone's house.
Exactly. It's flammable. It smells really strong. Just not practical for widespread use inside buildings.
So the next big step is figuring out a better way to actually deliver the bistrifluron.
That's what they're working on now. Nicholas Polo specifically said, we are working to make it more feasible for practical application. They need a formulation, maybe a gel or a bait, that's safe, stable, and easy for pest professionals to use.
But assuming they crack that formulation challenge, the potential for homeowners seems huge. A localized treatment, way less toxic, less disruptive than tenting the whole house.
Absolutely. It could be a really attractive alternative. Professor Cho called this research a good initial step toward alternative strategies.
And could it even offer longer protection?
That's another potential plus. There's a possibility the chemical could remain active in the treated wood for a while, offering some residual protection against new termites moving in, which fumigation just doesn't do.
Yeah.
That needs more looking into, but it's promising.
So, wrapping this up, what this deep dive shows is this really smart approach to pest control. Targeting something fundamental like molting, using the pest's own social structure against it, and even luring it in with a natural smell. It really points towards less toxic, more clever ways to protect our homes.
It's fascinating to see how understanding the intricate details of an organism's biology and behavior can lead to such targeted control methods. It's not just about brute force anymore.
It really isn't. And it makes you think, doesn't it? If disrupting a necessary process like molting works so well here, what other essential biological functions or behaviors in pests could we potentially target, in similar low-impact, super specific ways to develop even more advanced control methods down the road?
That's the exciting frontier, finding those vulnerabilities.